So in this video we are starting about Docker from its basic. So let's have a look on a Docker. So Docker is a tool to create containers and reduce our efforts. It giving the developer a way to package an application with all its dependencies. It means Docker is a tool to create the container in which there is an image of an application with all its dependencies which are supporting that application to run on our machine. Docker create container of the image present on Docker Hub. As by default, it taking the images from the Docker Hub and converting it into a container so that the application can run on our machines. The Docker reduce the developer times and efforts to run that application by providing all the necessary things to run that application in the in its container. So Docker make the container of the images that are present on the Docker Hub by default taking images from there. So basically in last we have understood from this diagram that Docker is a tool which are taking the images from the Docker Hub by default, as you can change this also, but it is by default taking the images from the Docker Hub and converted it to a container with that provided an application with all the dependencies so that the user have not to waste the time in downloading and installing the application and its dependencies and resolving the errors to run the application on the machine. So Docker is providing a way, a mechanism directly to the users for reducing their time so that they can only through one command can pull the image or run the image so that the container is running on their machines and all things done through only in one command. So an application which is an image which is pulling from Docker Hub is install all its dependencies. When you download an application, you download its dependencies and install them, and if it will give an error, you will sort it out, and you are wasting your time in sorting out the error, and after a lot of effort your application then runs. So this whole procedures is wasting your time, rather than you can use Docker for running your application with only one command, just a few seconds you can run an application with the Docker images. So Docker, if we pull images of that application only in one command, then it is best. Yes, as I told you, as application comes with all the dependency and do all the work from itself. So the users or the developers does not have to wait and waste their times in downloading and installing the dependencies, their application, and sorting out the error. The Docker with it images and containers do all this for ourselves. So let's have a look on the next page. So the the image of the application of any application is containing two things. One is file system snapshot and other is startup command. The file system snapshot is those which is the application, the dependencies and all things which is converted into the containers. Startup command is the command which is used to start the container. The images is converting into container. When we pull, I will show you through command how it converting. The images from the Docker Hub are converting into the container when we pull them or start or run them. It has benefit. It has many benefit to start as it get isolated from outside environment. If we give it, if we allocated resources to a container, let's suppose if we give a 2 GB of RAM, some space, and all the things that it require, the resources, then it will uses only those resources. It will not exceed the resources and it will get isolated from the outside environment. It will nothing to know what is going outside, it only to know what is going inside. It has a main objective to only running the images which is inside in it. So in Docker there are two things, the Docker server daemon server and the Docker client. The developer and the user requested or communicate to the client and the client communicate to the server. There is no direct connection of the user or the developer to the server because the server needs to be protected, needs to be only accessed when there is a need of the server actually. If we always approaching to the server, then it will create an issue. The server do all of the work and also do the work of the user or the developer. It will get it goes interrupted. It goes interrupted. As if we directly call the servers again and again, it got interrupted. What it will doing, so that it work will get a time, get leads, it will get leads. So there is a third way, that the user or the developer should first communicate to the client, and the client then communicate to the server if the request is not fulfilled by the client. Only when the request of the user or the developer is not fulfilled by the client, then it will communicate to the server. If it is fulfilled by the client, then it will fulfill the user or the developer. So this is the basic of Docker. Now let's go to the commands of the Docker. So firstly, I am making a VM. I'm making a VM on my machine. It's loading. I'm doing some sort of requirements. Starting the VM, adding a tab. Now console is being ready. Network is being allotted. This is the IP through which I can access the VM. So console is ready. Let's go to the network portion. IP is assigning. It takes times. So IP is assigned. So let's go to our command prompt cmd. So SSH. I'm accessing my VM. Some sort to access the VM. So I'm in my VM now. Some sort of updation. Now we are installing the Docker. Docker is being installing. Docker installation is complete. Now we are starting the command. Starting the command. Starting the commands of Docker. So the first and the basic command of Docker is Docker run hello world. So Docker, we have to write Docker in starting every time, because we are talking to the Docker. Run means to start. Hello world is the image which is pulling from the Docker hub. So if I press enter, then unable to find image locally. I will tell you the meaning of this. It is pulling the image, and after pull it will give a message hello from Docker. This message should let your installation appear to be working correctly, and this is the message of this. Now what is this meaning? Unable to find image hello world latest locally. Docker provide a mechanism when we pull an image of any application of anything, then it will allocated that image into our cache. That's and at every time we run that image, that it will carry that image from our local cache, not to always pulling that image from the Docker hub and wasting a lot of time. Those images which are pulling in the past by ourselves, it will locally reside into our cache and will not wasting time by again and again pulling the image from the Docker. So, so that's why this image is finding locally. That's why it pulled from the Docker hub. If I again say Docker run hello world, then it will directly run because this image is locally present in our cache memory. It will be present in our cache memory. That's why it is not showing that we are pulling the image from the Docker hub. That's teaches listed this. One thing I have to show before going forward, if we write Docker version, then after writing Docker version, we see that there is a client portion and there is a server portion. So in the client portion, we see the version, the API version, who version, git commit, build, operating system architecture, context, experiment. So version is this, API is this. API means application program interface. Who version, git commit, and the client is working on Linux AMD 64 architecture. Now server engine is the version A, API A. Who version this, git commit this, build, operating system architecture this, experimental for container D. Version, git, run C version. Now we see that in Docker version there are two things, server and client. We are talking to the client and the client communicate to the server. If the request which is requested by the user or the developer to the client is not fulfilled by the client, then it will communicate to the server and the server will communicate to the client and the client to the user or developer. So this is the way of communication in Docker. Now if we want to see all the images which are present in our locally cache memory, then we have to write Docker images. So after writing this, as we have downloaded the hello world image a back, then hello world tag is latest. What is the meaning of this? I will tell you. Hello world latest image ID created 9 months ago. Sizes. So all things are mentioning. If we write docker ps, this is the command for seeing which container are running and what are those containers property. So docker ps, there is no one container which is running at this time. If we want to see all the running and non-running containers, then we have to docker ps hyphen a, which means all running and non-running four containers. Now we have created two containers. First we have when we pull the image from the docker hub, and after then when we show that it will not pulling from the docker, then we run two command docker run two times. Docker run hello world when it was downloading the image from the docker hub, and after that when we write docker run hello world, then two containers are being created. So these are two containers and whose names are this, nervous boss and determined creator. if we want to if we want to delete the container, firstly we have to, whenever we want to delete a container, we have to first stop it and then delete that container. As we can see, the status of both the container is stopped. Exited 2 minutes ago, exited 2 minutes ago, exited 3 minutes ago. That means these containers are being stopped. So we can directly remove. Docker remove anything you can write. I am writing, you can write the image name or the container name, but it is recommended that you can round container ID as the name of the both the images are same. So you have to remember that you have always docker remove then container ID. So I am writing container ID 39b. 4 4 up to 4 it is sufficient, but if it say that these container IDs are in conflict, then you have to provide a one or two or more. So docker remove. So this container has been removed from our locally. So if I write again docker ps all, so then The container which is 39B23 has been removed from here. Now if we want to remove this container also, then docker remove 85A, then this also remove, then docker ps all, nothing has been inside this. Now if I say docker run hello world, so this is running because the image is present, docker images. Because hello world image has been there, it will not downloading the image because we only deleting the container, not the image. We have not deleted the image. So that's why it is running directly. If we want to remove the images, then we can write docker remove image. Firstly, to remove an image, we have to delete that container which is using that image that we want to delete. So firstly we have to see what type of containers are using that image. Docker ps minus -a. This container is using that image that we want to delete from there. So firstly we have to stop it and then delete it. Docker stop it. This container is stopped as I have seen in the status portion. So we have to only write docker remove 8d. Then this is deleted. Now we can see docker ps -a, nothing is there. We can see docker images. Now if we want to remove this image, then we can write docker remove images and id of that, or the word id or the name. You can write anything here. Now I'm writing the id fep. Now this lines give that the image has been created. Now I'm pulling some images. Docker pull. This command is only to pull, not to start the container, only to pull the image. As we can see that where we have written docker run, it means run is made up of two commands, to create and to start. First to create the image of the container, then to start the container. So docker so we have seen the docker run command is made up of two things, create and start. As we have seen, I will show you how they've been done. So the docker run command is made up of two commands, create and start. So let's have a look on this, how this happens. If I say, if I want to check docker image, nothing is there. If there is no image, then there is no container by sha, because the container uses the images, and if there is no image, there will not be container anymore. So we want to use the create and start command instead of docker run. So let's have a look. Docker create hello. I'm taking a newer image nginx. Docker create, ये create करो. Then this command is creating the image into a container. No, and not to start, but the run command directly start, because run command is made up of two things, create and start. It will also create and also start that. So let's have a look. Then the downloading is in progress. Then download newer image for nginx latest. This is the tag. I will tell you what is meant by tag. Docker start nginx. This command is downloading the image and converting it into the image into a container. This is the container ID, but the container is not running. Let's have a look. There is no container at running. Docker ps, there is no container at running. And if we see the old container, then there is a container 5c7 which is showing here 56762. The docker entry point and nifty, the name is theirs. nginx is image which is running inside this container, and this is only created, the status is only created. Now docker start 5c762. now I'm starting this container. So this container is starting. Now if we see docker ps, then there is a container name image nginx, name this, is starting up 3 seconds. Up means start. 3 seconds, the time is starting. About a minute ago created. Now if we want to stop this container, the docker stop and the ID of that container 5C762. Now this container has been stopped, and if we want to remove it, docker remove 5672 5C67 5C762. Now this container has been stopped and removed. Now you can see docker ps-a, nothing is there. No container is running or not running. If we see docker images, nginx image is there and latest tag is there. Now we are talking about tag. What is mean by tag? Tag is the, if I docker remove images nginx, now image has been deleted because there is no container of using the image nginx. Docker pull. Pull is the command to pull the image, only to pull the image, not to create the container. Create command is used to create the image, create and the image into a container. Pull command is only to downloading the image from the docker by default. You can change this. Docker pull nginx, and I am using the tag latest. This is the tag. By default, if you're not giving any tag, then it will take it as a latest. And if you do tag this, then it will also. Now the image is pulling, only pulling. This is written here, only pulling from library. Library is Docker Hub. Inside this there is an nginx, which is the tag of latest. Now it is downloading. Now it get downloaded in your image. Now if you see Docker images, there is an image of nginx, but there is no container, which is there is no container because we have only pull, we have not create. We have only pulled the image. We have not converted the image into the container. That's why there is no container which is there in our local. Now I am going to show you some how to name a container. If I want to make a container of nginx, so docker run hyphen d is the detach mode. Detach mode, it is doing the whole process in the background, not showing in to ourselves. Docker run detach mode hyphen detach d, and the name of the container, it is written as like this. If we want to hyphen name equal to my container one. This is the name that I want to give to the container of the nginx image. Now docker run detach mode hyphen name, the container of the name of the container, and after the image that you want to run inside that container nginx. So this is the id of the container which is running in background in detach mode. Then if we want to see that the container is running or not, then docker ps, yes, there's a id 74ae 4342, which is this. It means this container is being running, and the name of that container is my container one, which I have been given in hyphen name. This means we can name a container anything, run, start, create, anything that we want, remove, stop. So only through commands we can do this. Only one command we can create, we can pull, we can start, we can stop, we can remove container, we can remove images, anything that we would like to do. Now I will show you some important things like docker run. If I want to give the port number to this container, then firstly I should want to stop this. Docker stop 774 has been stopped. This is the ID of the container. Docker remove container, docker remove 74. If you want to now checking the check the docker ps there docker. Now if you want to give the port number also, the docker run detach mode hyphen hyphen name equal to hyphen name equal to my container, and if you want to give port number to hyphen p your host port, let's say I giving 8085 and the container port that you want to give. Now this means port has been allotted. This port is of green container and this was the host port, host pub port, and this is container port. 5000 container port and 8085 is host port. We have to write every time if we want to give the command line, or it will also given through the YAML file which we make. We can give through any one of these. Now this is the container ID which is being run because we have given the command docker run. Now docker ps, now docker stop c6, docker remove c6. Now I will show you how to make a docker file, how to make your own image rather than pulling from docker hub. So let's suppose I am making a file, docker file, and in this I am making my own image which I want to keep. So this is the format of writing the docker file from Ubuntu. From is the keyword, from Ubuntu. Run, run is the keyword. Apt get update. Run, run apt get install. I'm making my own image. Install hyphen yes nginx image I want. Now command echo image created. Now this is complete. Let's go back. Now I am making a docker file. Now get docker file. So this is the thing that I have been written there. Now if you want your own image, not to pull the image from the docker hub, you can write after making the docker file of your image docker build, and then you can give the tag or the name of your image. Then I am giving my my image one. This is the tag of my image hyphen t tag my image dot. So this is completing. It will pulling Ubuntu from the docker hub because it will creating my own image in locally, but it will get requirements completed by docker. So the image is downloading. So successfully tagged my image one latest because we did not given any tag after 1 2. So that's why by default it is taking, because we have not defined the tag here, the image tag. That's why it's by default taking latest, because by default it is taking latest tag is being used by default. Now if we want to see our images, then there is an image my image one, which is our own images that we have made through Dockerfile. This is the way of building your own images through Dockerfile. Now writing Dockerfile is easy. You can go through and write how to write Dockerfile. Now best practices for the whole procedure is showing here, from copy run command and all things are mentioning in Docker official documentation. You can read this and you can learn how to write Docker files, or you can do, you can see videos also. But this documentation is very useful to me personally. So you can learn how to write Docker file from there. Now if I write Docker network list, then these are the networks on which the containers are being running. There are three networks here by default: bridge, host, null. Now if we want to inspect these networks, then Docker inspect and the network name bridge. Then Docker. The name is bridge, ID, created scope, driver, IPM, internal, attachable, ingress, all things, the configuration file, because we are inspecting what is inside this. Now let's have a look on this command on container. Docker ps, no is there, Docker images, and I want to run a container of Ubuntu Meet. Docker run -d name equal to container my container one and the Ubuntu image. So this is the container which is running. This is running because I am writing the data mode, not showing me. Docker ps hyphen a. Yes, this container has been installed. Now if we want to inspect this container, Docker inspect ID of the container 904. So this is the configuration of this container. ID we created this path status running false, status exceeded that, and this image resolution, host name, path name, driver is overlay to Linux platform, and going through forward. All these are the things that this container is taking: CPU count, memory count, kernel memory, CPU, real time, runtime. After this, graph driver, data, logo driver, upper work directory, mount configuration, host name, this domain name, attach, open environment. Environment is this path, environment path, command is bash, image is Ubuntu, volumes null, working directory, entry point, onboard labels. After that, networks is the bridge that we have seen, the three network that we have seen, that there are three networks which are bridge, host, null. This container is working on the bridge network that we have seen here in the network portion. That this container is working on the bridge network, and the network ID, endpoints, gateway, IP address, subnet, and all things are mentioned in its inspect file. Now Docker images. Docker, if we want to remove the images, firstly we have to stop the container. So yes, Docker yes hyphen a. Now Docker remove, because this container is being stopped. Docker remove 904. Now Docker remove images. What are the images? 8 8AC 8AC 41B space. You can write many more by giving the space between them in whole command. 279 279. Now 2799, this has been mistaken by my keyboard myself. Docker remove image 279. Now this has been, and now if you do Docker images, then nothing has been shown. So this is the basic commands. So you can try and practice this self. Now I will show you one thing. If you write tomer2003.blogspot.com, so this is my blog. You can also read about Docker from here itself. All about Docker. Docker, what is Docker, Docker component, and Docker images, what are Docker containers, what are Docker architecture, and Docker architecture, Docker registry, some basic command. There's command also: Docker run, Docker images, Docker ps, Docker ps hyphen e, Docker remove images, Docker stop, Docker run hyphen d, detach mode code, Docker build dot, Docker compose up. This is the command which is used for the registry, and I'm not covering the registry part in this video. It will doing in the later portion. It is used to Docker network ls, Docker inspect, and Docker run network images. And you can also give the network. Here I am showing you how you can giving the network. If I want to Docker create, if I Docker pull, I'm pulling the image. Docker pull Redis. I'm pulling the Redis image. I want to show you the last command which I have been forgot to tell you how to configure, how to give a network to a container. Now Docker, this image is not pulling. Docker Redis. Uh, I thought the spelling has been mistaken. That's why it is showing error for the daemon. Firstly, it will go to the client and then to the daemon. Daemon is showing what is the mistake. And daemon saying full access denied for Redis. Repository does not exist or may require Docker login denied. Request because the repository does not exist because there is spelling mistake there. Now image has been pulled. Now if we want to see images, then image is there. Now if we want to run the container of this image, Docker run -d detach mode. And if we want to give network to this, network equal to bridge, which is the default. Firstly, we have to create our own network. We use the network which is present globally. Docker network create -driver bridge -subnet equal to 10.0.0.124 gateway 190.168.5.1 and network name my network 1. This is the subnet and the gateway and the driver. No matching subnet or gateway. Oh, there's no. So we cannot create the network because we do not know what are the subnet or gateway we can do. So let's have a look to use a local network. Docker. But the way is same. Once you know the subnet and once you know the gateway of your network, you can create any number of networks. Docker network ls. So these are the by default networks. Now we want to use this image that we pulled Redis to run on the network bridge. Docker run -name equal to Redis container and -network is equal to bridge and the image of detach mode also is being used. We don't want to see our network spelling has been. So this is a container form which is running on bridge network. Let's have a look. Docker inspect and the ID of the container BA. Now you can see the network portion is in bridge and uh, image, and you can see the image also. What is the image? ID this, image is this, Redis because it's the ID of the image. So this is all about Docker. You can read it from my blog, which is you can write on the web. Tomer 10 2000 2003 dot blogspot.com, and after entering this you get my blog, and there's many blogs you can read it out, but you have to first read it out Docker, and it will contain all things. And if you want command, you can just see this. These are whole command that you can use in Docker. Thank you for seeing my video. Hope you like my video. If you want any video in the future, please let me know in the comment section. Thank you very much.